All right. Well, good evening. Hope that everyone is doing well this evening. I'm going to go ahead and kick this off with a little bit of a disclaimer, or maybe a warning or something. I don't know what you would call it. So the area where I live is experiencing some pretty intense storms naturally. And earlier this evening, the electricity was kind of flickering and things like that. So if this feed just spontaneously disappears, well, then you'll know that something has gone sideways at the History Underground headquarters. But anyway, wanted to jump on here this evening, and got some friends who are going to be joining us here in a bit, and talking a little bit about the Gettysburg Film Festival, which runs from May 8th to the 11th. So it's coming up pretty fast. Last night, there was a live stream over on Vlogging Through History that you can go check out, where Chris was talking with Andrew Dalton from the Adams County Historical Society about some different developments. And we've actually got a very, very recent development that we are going to be announcing here on this live stream. So let me go ahead and bring in a couple of familiar faces. We've got Erik from the Gettysburg Museum of History. If you didn't catch it earlier today, we had a new episode of American Artifact that dropped, where we were in the area of the Bastogne perimeter, taking a look at some Band of Brothers artifacts. Erik, how are we doing this evening?
Pretty good. Thanks for putting me on, and be glad to talk about the Gettysburg Film Festival. Very exciting news. Also, we're going to drop tonight. So yeah, looking forward to it.
I just noticed the guitars in the background. Are there any significance to the guitars you got back there?
The white one is Nikki Sixx from Motley Crue's bass. It's stage played, so I have pictures of them on stage with it. And the Gibson SG is Ronnie 1010 Yonkins from Kicks. So both are historic guitars. So they were in the room, so I just put them back there to mix it up a little bit.
Okay. I don't know if people realize that you've got a pretty significant music history collection as well. We might have to do some artifact videos on some rock history at some point.
Sure, anytime. Yeah, I really like the rock and roll history because I used to work in that industry, and I kind of sold a lot of the memorabilia I kept from back in those days. But now that I'm old, I'm nostalgic for it. So I've been collecting some pretty interesting things lately. So.
Here's something that I'm finding that has been very rewarding for me, is that a lot of the high school age kids right now are kind of discovering the music from like the mid 90s, a lot of like Nirvana and Pearl Jam and Alice in Chains and stuff like that. I've been seeing that a lot on social media. And I actually had a student a couple weeks ago ask me, they said, "Hey, have you ever heard of a band called Pearl Jam?" And I was like, "Well, as a matter of fact, I have." So yeah, so that stuff is becoming cool again. Well, it never wasn't cool, but it's good to see other people appreciate it again.
But that is encouraging for sure.
All right. Also got with us Chris from Vlogging Through History.
I feel like I got to put a guitar behind me now.
He it has what is that, Woody Guthrie's guitar or something that you've got there with you?
No more famous than my first acoustic guitar. Yeah.
It's we'll really have to put that in the museum, Chris.
What's that?
We'll have to put that in the museum.
Yeah, someday. I mean, I tell you what, I've owned, like, I mean, this is like a $200 guitar, and I've had way nicer guitars than that, but never one that sounds as good as that.
Wow,
I keep it.
Nice. And also with us from the channel Real History, which is one of my favorite channels, we got Jared Frederick. Jared, let's see what musical instrument you have to show off.
I have no guitars or taxidermied animals behind me.
I need to switch this out. I've got let's see. I'm looking at a Blessbach right now. I've got a bear skull there. I've got a bear downstairs. I need to swap them out and just switch it up a little bit.
It's not alive, is it?
No. He hasn't been alive for quite some time. All right. So anyway, talking a little bit of history and film and the Gettysburg Film Festival that is coming up. Before we got into the film festival stuff, I was kind of curious. I was thinking about this earlier about how history and film are kind of interwoven. Of course, Jared's channel is all about that. On History Underground, we talk a lot about Band of Brothers and other films and things like that. How history has influenced that, and how the films have influenced our understanding of history. And I was kind of curious for you guys if you can recall, like, what was one of the earliest films or TV series that you saw that had a like a historic theme to it that had an impact on you?
Should I go first?
Yeah.
Because I'm probably the oldest. So when I was a little kid, A Bridge Too Far came out, and I wanted to see it because I had gotten a magazine like at a grocery store with my mom. It was like a movie magazine that had all the stars from A Bridge Too Far in it, and it was like a magazine dedicated to A Bridge Too Far, and it had the history as well. It had like the actors and then the real people they were portraying, and I was fascinated by it. And when it came out, I don't know what the rating was. I don't think it was rated R, but I was pretty young. I was a little kid, and my mother didn't want me to see it because she was afraid it would be too violent and all that kind of stuff. So, but my dad took me to see it anyway, and I that was one of the first ones I saw at a theater, at least, that I remember, and I remember really reading a lot about it. And I was absolutely fascinated with Major Julian Cook, who was played by Robert Redford. The scene where he goes across and they're paddling in the boats and everything. This is before I really knew about Audie Murphy and, of course, Dick Winters and people like that. But he was kind of like my military hero for a long, long time. And, fast forward many decades later, I now have Julian Cook's uniform in the collection at the museum. So that was the one that I think really first influenced me.
Oh, cool. I actually didn't know that you had that uniform. I'm always learning. I've been there. I don't know how many times, and I'm always seeing and learning new things that are at the museum. Jared, what about you?
For regular viewers of Real History, they may know this answer already, but it was the 1993 movie Gettysburg. It may seem unlikely that a 7 or 8 year old could have an attention span of 4 hours to watch a movie of that magnitude. I look back on it now and I think I really was an unusual young man. But
you were 4 years old in 1993?
Yes.
Good Lord. All
Yeah,
right.
so I think I saw it when it came out on the double VHS tape the following year.
I had that too.
But I think one of the things that really captivated me in regard to that story is that my parents took me to Gettysburg shortly after I saw the movie. And it was the first time that I was able to correlate a place that I was standing at with a movie that I had watched. It's like, oh, yes, this is where this happened. I saw that in a movie. And so it just undoubtedly speaks to the power of place. And I know so many Civil War historians who are around my age in their 30s. And that was, well, to use a line from the movie, the divine spark that ignited their passion.
Yeah.
All right, Chris, what about you?
So I grew up in the 80s. I'm younger than Erik, but older than the other two. And for me, there were 3 things that came out in the 80s, and they were all TV series. There was the one that really first got my attention was Gore Vidal's Lincoln, starring Sam Waterston, who was at the film festival last year playing Lincoln. And that got me interested in the Civil War. But also in the 80s, around before Gore Vidal's Lincoln, you had The Blue and the Gray and North and South. And so like TV was all about these Civil War era miniseries. And then in 1990, I made my first trip to Gettysburg and fell in love with that place. And from that time on, history has been a passion, but also specifically the Civil War.
So I have a similar answer. One of the earliest pieces of, I don't know, you wouldn't call it cinema, but is a TV series that I can remember is The Blue and the Gray. Like I can't remember how old I was. Like that came out, was it 1983 or?
It was early 80s, yeah.
Yeah, and I probably would have been too young to have remembered it when it came out. So I must have caught it like a couple years later when it reran or something like that. But I remember my mom and dad watching that whole series, and I watched it with them. I can still like hum the theme music in my head. Yeah. So that was probably the earliest one.
Hey, speaking of Blue and the Gray, I don't know if you know this connection between that and Gettysburg. Cooper Huckabee, who plays Harrison in Gettysburg, is one of the Geyser brothers in The Blue and the Gray. He's the one who has a limp because he got wounded at Vicksburg in the artillery, and then he gets killed on their family farm.
Oh, wow.
You'd never know because he looks so different, but same guy.
Oh, okay. Yeah.
He also plays one of the bad guys in Django Unchained.
Really?
Yes.
Nice.
He plays one of the Brittle brothers.
Oh, cool. I didn't know that either. All right. Yeah. Learning all kinds of new things. The other one, and I've said this before, with other streams and, talks with other people, and this is kind of an unorthodox movie to kind of get a person into history. And this is really a stretch, but Raiders of the Lost Ark was another one.
Nice.
That was kind of my introduction, cinematically speaking, into the Second World War. And I watched, my mom and dad showed me that movie when I was fairly young. Like I was maybe 6 or 7. Okay, so Jared, just to show you how old the rest of us are, like my mom and dad had to go to the movie store and rent a VHS player and then rent the movie that we played. And that was like a huge deal because it was like having a movie theater in our house. So it was pretty wild. We didn't have to watch commercials or anything like that. And I remember them being so excited. So anyway, yeah, talking movies and history and everything like that. We got the Gettysburg Film Festival that is coming up May 8th through the 11th. This year, the theme is surrounding victory in Europe. Okay, so VE Day. So all of the movies, all the things that are going to be screened, which we'll take a look at here in just a little bit, are going to be around that World War II theme. And Chris, you had Andrew Dalton on last night on your stream. And there was a pretty big announcement of somebody else who's going to be showing up. Who was that?
Yeah. So first of all, I have to say that it took a lot of willpower to not make the second big announcement, which we're going to be making on this stream, because I knew about it, but wanted to save that one for this one. So, but yeah, no, actually we were, for those who don't know, we're on like a monthly, like we're part of the group that's kind of like working on advertising for all of this and kind of, connected, but we're not like Andrew running the thing or anything. But so we have these monthly Zoom calls where we're talking about what's going on and updates. And we were on the Zoom call a couple of days ago, and Gary Edelman from the American Battlefield Trust had to get off for a minute because his phone rang, and it was Trace Adkins, the country superstar, calling to say that he was going to be there for the film festival. So he's going to be coming, being a part. And if we look at the schedule, we can talk about, I think he's part of the one to do with Ike with Susan Eisenhower and is it Stephen Lang? I think they're doing something with him.
Yeah. There's something with well, here, let's go ahead and just pull that up.
So I think he's coming in on the 10th.
All right. So here is the website for the Gettysburg Film Festival. So those who are interested in going, this is where you want to go in order to look at the events and get your tickets and all kinds of stuff like that. So let's go here to the festival schedule.
So yeah, Saturday the 10th, the 2:30. Yeah, they've actually already added Trace Adkins to the schedule.
Oh, okay. All right. Yeah.
And then
There
he's
he
going to
is.
be at the 7 o'clock event doing the national anthem before the thing with Susan Eisenhower. And
Yes.
Chris
Yeah. They have it down there. Yeah. It says included special performance of the national anthem by Trace Adkins.
And I guess, guess Erik probably can remember this, but Andrew was saying last night that Trace was there for the 150th of Gettysburg and sang the national anthem for something at the 150th.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, so he's been on some videos with the American Battlefield Trust guys. Like he's passionate about history, and this is perfect for him. You know, somebody who loves history as much as the rest of us do.
All right, cool. Now, Jared, there's not a bad event or a bad screening on this entire thing. Like everything that I look at, I'm like I want to do it all. For you, what are you kind of looking forward to? What's on your schedule of things that you're going to try and hit during the 3 or 4 days?
It's like making a Sweet 16 bracket almost. Great difficulty in choosing which one's going to win out over the others. But I would really encourage participants to go and see some of the older films, movies that you're unlikely to ever see on the big screen again. I'm sure Erik is probably going to head to see A Bridge Too Far on the big screen again, bring back a little bit of nostalgia. I would certainly encourage one like that. But a lesser known one that I'm particularly fond of is a 1945 movie entitled The Story of G.I. Joe. This is a movie that was directed by Wild Bill Wellman, who was one of the great classic action directors from the 1920s through the 1960s. And probably my favorite World War II movie he directed just 4 years after that, entitled Battleground, which is about the 101st Airborne at Bastogne. If you folks haven't seen that one, you got to check that out. Like the perfect GI movie. But a few years before that one, he directed this movie, Story of G.I. Joe, that is a semi-biographical feature about Ernie Pyle's exploits in Italy and Sicily. And it stars a young Robert Mitchum in the only Academy Award nominated role that he ever had, believe it or not. And it is just so true and faithful to the spirit of Ernie Pyle's writings. And what's particularly notable about the version that will be played during the festival is that just in the past 2 years, the film was restored by Ignite Films, which is kind of a craft boutique sort of cinema distribution company that makes specialty DVDs, a lot like Criterion. And it will be the finest picture quality seen on the big screen of this movie since it debuted. And the really nice cherry on top is that movie actually played at the Majestic Theater in 1945, where the film festival is taking place. So it'll be a real, I think, wonderful throwback to another time in Hollywood history, of which the Majestic was a part.
And Andrew, go ahead.
Tell us a little bit about the Majestic.
Yeah, the Majestic Theater is this classical movie playhouse located in downtown Gettysburg, right between the Lincoln train station and the Gettysburg Hotel. It has that very classic 1930s, 1940s, 1950s vibe to it. It has a bit of an Art Deco flair to it. Yeah. And it's where Dwight and Mamie Eisenhower and the Eisenhower family often went to see movies whenever they hit the town. So it has a very storied past, and we're very lucky to have that as a venue for this festival.
Yeah, it's such a cool theater. Yeah. So, and you're also going to, so let me go back to what we were just looking at there. So the Story of G.I. Joe, that's Friday at 1 o'clock. You're also hosting or introducing a couple of different screenings as well. What do you got going on there?
Yes, on Saturday at 12:30, I'll be sitting down for a conversation with one of the Band of Brothers screenwriters, John Orloff. He contributed to several episodes, wrote several episodes, including the D-Day episode of Band of Brothers. And so he and I are going to sit for a conversation, have a little bit of Q&A before that is shown on the big screen as well. So that too will be, I think, a particular treat if you have the chance to see any of the Band of Brothers episodes on the big screen. That will be very unique because it was never shown on the big screen. It never had a theatrical run. It was a TV miniseries.
Yeah, I'm really looking forward to that. I think the only time that it's ever been shown on the big screen was probably in 2001
in
during
Normandy.
the screenings that they had in Normandy. I mean, Eric, are you aware of any other screenings that they've had on the screen?
Not that I know of, just that premiere, I believe. And but I wanted to add something real quick to the story of G.I. Joe. After you get done with Jared's introduction and watching the film, that film was actually shot with a bunch of real World War II veteran extras. And at the Gettysburg Museum of History, we have a oversized photograph from that movie of a bunch of them sitting in like a canteen or like a saloon or something.
Oh, wow.
And it's signed by over 100 veterans. So it's a pretty unique artifact, and it's from that film. So after you watch the film, come check out the signatures.
That's actually one of my favorite artifacts in the museum, for as subtle as that may seem. My love of cinema and Hollywood history and World War II history, that's all mashed up in that big group photo. I love that thing.
Yeah, I don't think I've seen that either. All right, so let's go back to the schedule here. On Saturday at 10 a.m. Now, this is going to be out at the high school.
I guess you just made the announcement because it's up on the screen.
Yeah, it looks like it. So we're going to be having a panel discussion with some of the screenwriters and actors from Band of Brothers. So we've got John Orloff, who wrote episodes 2 and 9, which was the D-Day episode, and also
Why We Fight,
the one where they liberate the concentration camp. Got Matt Leach and Mark Lawrence, who played Floyd Talbert and Dukeman. And Eric, we've got a very recent addition to that lineup that I am quite excited about.
Yeah, me too. We've also added, we've been trying to get him for a while, but a man who needs no introduction, Captain Dale Dye, who played Colonel Sink in Band of Brothers. And of course, he wrote the foreword to Jared and myself's book, which I should have this as a prop. Fierce Battle. So Dale, he had some scheduling issues and stuff, so he was just able to confirm recently, actually just 2 or 3 days ago. And I spoke with him today. He called me up, and we talked about some details and everything. But you know, I did a book signing with him in Louisville, Kentucky recently, and that was the first time I ever did a book signing with him. And it was very successful. And we sold out of books, and we sold out of photos and everything else. And he also agreed to come on on our board of advisors. So he's joining Jared and JD and myself on the board, and he's gonna be pretty hands-on, I think. So yeah. He's pretty excited about the Band of Brothers exhibit that we're creating in the new museum at the Gettysburg Museum of History. So we're gonna be happy to have him. I toured Europe with him many years ago, and we did a Q&A with, I think it was Dale and Matt Leach and Jim Matteo, who's not going to be there, but it was really, really great because, you know, the actors have one perspective, but Dale Dye has a completely different perspective. He has the perspective as an actor and as a technical advisor. And of course he ran the Actors Boot Camp, which in my opinion is what made Band of Brothers the greatest World War II film, in my opinion, of all time. He prepped the actors for, with military drill and all the techniques that they use to make it seem more realistic and give them a taste of military before they actually started filming. So it's he toughened them up a little bit, and he'll explain about that. We talked about that today. I told him that, a lot of people know him from seeing him in the films, and, they'll recognize him because he's also been in, I think he has 94 credits or something like that. I mean, he started with Platoon and Saving Private Ryan. It just goes on and on and on. But a lot of people don't know that behind the scenes stuff that he does as an advisor and the military boot camp that he runs. So I want to make sure that, he talks about that a little bit when we do our Q&A with him.
Yeah. And if somebody wants a great look at that boot camp, there's I think it's still on YouTube. Ron Livingston did like a video diary of
That's right.
That boot camp that you can see.
It's also on the DVD set. And, another place you can go to get some background on Dale that I think is really good. At one of the anniversaries of Band of Brothers, HBO put out a podcast, and they had various actors, and they had one. I think it's Dale is on with Matthew Settle, who played Spears, and he goes into his background quite a bit, and it really gives you some good insight to what he was doing and everything. And Dale's kind of humble when it comes to talking about that stuff. Like when we did the event in Louisville, Kentucky, like he gave me his bio, and it was really small, but he was there with other veterans, so I think he just doesn't want to beat the drum too much, but he's really an extraordinary person. I mean, not only a Vietnam vet and Marine, and I think he was wounded 3 times. I mean, his military history is incredible, but what he has done for military films is just incredible. And it's really interesting to check out some of that other stuff, like the HBO companion disc and the HBO podcast. So highly recommend that.
Jared, is that behind the scenes thing on your channel?
Yes, it is.
Okay, I thought so. Yeah, I thought so.
You can head to Real History and
there you go.
See that.
Yeah. All right. So
I was
as
looking
you were saying that, I was like, man, I'm almost positive that it's on Jared's
I was
channel.
looking for my copy of Erik and Jared's book. I didn't have that one on the shelf behind me, but I do have my autographed copy of Dispatches from D-Day.
Oh,
thank you much.
Got that from Jared the first time we met.
Indeed.
nice.
Excellent.
Nice. Yeah, so when Erik sent me the text a few days ago saying that Dale had confirmed, man, I was so excited because having spent a little bit of time with him in Louisville and getting to talk with him and hear his stories and hear his philosophy on war films and stuff like that, I am very eager to share that out with a larger group of people. Yeah. Because he is a man who has, in my opinion, revolutionized war films. Like there's war films before Platoon, and then there's war films after Platoon.
Right.
And he was a huge part of that. So anyway, you'll definitely want to be planning ahead and jumping on and getting some of those tickets as soon as possible, because of course all of these tickets are limited seating. Chris, what do you got? What are you looking forward to?
Well, for sure. I'm actually really looking forward to hearing Martin Sheen and Joe Cosgrove talking about the Eddie Slovik story, which Martin Sheen played Eddie Slovik, the only American executed for desertion in the 20th century. It was World War II, and he was a guy who had deserted. They did everything they could to try and get him to go back, so they didn't have to execute him. But then they decided they were going to make an example of somebody, and Eddie Slovik became that guy. And Martin Sheen plays him. It's a powerful movie. And I guess Joe Cosgrove is a former judge in Pennsylvania, who so he kind of has that side of things, looking at the legal aspect of it all. And of course, Martin Sheen's very, very politically active and things like that. But I'm really curious to hear what they have to say about that movie and anything Susan Eisenhower does. Susan Eisenhower is a special lady. She's super smart, really nice, and just and looks like her grandpa a lot too.
Yeah. And you're also going to be doing the introduction.
Yes, for
on
Saving Private Ryan, which is
Saving
at
Private
the Visitor Center for the National Military Park. And we're still talking about whether or not we're going to have Dale there to introduce, talk with him briefly before Saving Private Ryan. Obviously, he worked on that, and he's in the movie at the beginning. But either way, we're going to be I'll be introducing that movie. And that's our late night event for the week. Goes till midnight. So
yeah, I'm looking forward to that because I haven't seen that movie in the theater since 1998.
I didn't see it in the theater then, so I'm excited about that too. Especially in the National Military Park theaters. They've got some nice theaters to show stuff. So yeah, I'm excited about that.
And I don't know, it sounds like some heavy rain is kicking back up on my metal roof. So if it sounds,
you
can't hear it. Okay, all
Nope.
right, that's good. I was going to say if it starts sounding like static or something like that, that's what's going on. So Jared, what in your opinion, I know that you used to be a park ranger at Gettysburg. What is it about Gettysburg that you think makes this the right place for a history themed film festival?
It's the crossroads of America. For history buffs, it's our Mecca in the American story. And everything begins in 1863, but as I always stress to my students when I teach about Gettysburg, is that 1863 is only the beginning, because there is this long, drawn-out, dramatic, sometimes tragic, sometimes comedic story that plays out over the subsequent generations of people trying to determine what exactly Gettysburg means. Why do we go there? Why do we honor it? Why do we buy the souvenirs that we do? What do people seek to learn? Are they seekers? Are they pilgrims? Are they students? Are they mere tourists? It's a little bit of everything. And one of those people who sought to understand Gettysburg and to use the wisdom of its leadership lessons was Dwight Eisenhower. And I just so happened about a year ago, I got my doctorate, and my dissertation was on the World War II history of the Gettysburg battlefield. So this is a story that means a lot to me. The overlapping of history, 1940s history of this very special place, is something that I've studied a lot over the past several years. And in my mind, Eisenhower is the bookend of the story that I wrote. He starts out as a young man there, his first command at Camp Colt on the fields of Pickett's Charge in 1918. He's a 27-year-old captain. He's full of energy and vigor. He wants to go over to Europe and get a lot of medals pinned on his chest, but he never has the chance to go because he's so efficient at his job at being administrator of this essentially tank farm, is a good way to think of it, that he never gets to go over. But it's a place that resonated in his heart and mind all throughout his military and political career. And that's why he purchases a Civil War era farmstead in Gettysburg in 1950. And there's so many more layers associated with World War II as well, whether we talk about the prisoner of war camp that was located there, the psychological operations unit that trained on Seminary Ridge, or the expansion of the National Cemetery to accommodate war dead from the Second World War. Gettysburg is an incredibly fitting place to talk about not only Civil War history, but World War II history as well. And Erik's museum was really one of the first that started to make those connections. And many more have followed suit, and it's a wonderful place to have a conversation on all these things.
Yeah, so kind of piggybacking off of that, in addition to the film festival, I mean, to me, what makes it such an ideal location is that there is so much to do in Gettysburg, while you're there. So I think the earliest events start at 10 o'clock in the morning, so you can, get up early and go.
If you're like JD.
Battlefield. Yeah. Yeah, exactly. So Erik, I mean, you've lived in Gettysburg your entire life. And I think we can all agree here that outside of the film festival, if you're going to Gettysburg, the number one thing that you need to see and go visit is the Gettysburg Museum of History, which, by the way, I forgot to mention, 12:30 on Saturday after the panel discussion, we've got a meet and greet at the museum that is free. So you'll want to come and hang out with us there.
I think, Jimmy, does it start at 12? Because like we were gonna try to get Orloff here, maybe not. I don't know, because like Andrew and I were talking about it yesterday, because we're gonna try to get him here for at least a few minutes before he has to go to the other event with Jared. I'm not sure if it starts at 12 or 12:30. We're trying to work that out so he'd be here at least for a couple minutes. And I think we're gonna, instead of having they were gonna have a lunch for him. They're going to cater it and have it here. Like, so we have sandwiches for the actors.
Okay.
For the signing, because John has to get to Jared's event. I think it's at 12:30. Is that correct?
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So we want to get him here at least for a minute or two to do some photos and stuff, because we're going to have all the actors and John Orloff, hopefully, here in the annex building, and they're going to be signing. And of course, Dale can sign the book, Fierce Valor, since he wrote the foreword to Jared and I's book. And we're also going to have some photographs available, and we're going to sell those as a fundraiser for the museum and the new expansion project. And also people can bring their own items, and we're just going to ask for a small donation, whatever you can give us, if you want to get a helmet signed or if you have other items. But we're going to print some photographs that will be available of Band of Brothers and the individual actors. We did that in Louisville when we were with Dale, and we sold out. I mean, I brought what I thought would be too many, and we sold out. So, and we use that as a fundraiser for the museum as well. We're plugging along with fundraising for the new annex. And so that event is at least an hour, I guess, and depending on how many people show up. When there's events back to back, it's a little tough because you have to kind of make a decision, or you can come to one and then miss part of another one, or I don't know. Yeah. I know a lot of people are going to want to get signatures, but I know I want to go to Jared's event as well, but I don't know. I'll have to be here, obviously. So.
Yeah, well, fortunately, he has two, so we'll be able to hit the episode 9 screening. And also, for people who may not know, the Gettysburg Museum of History, if you're again into the series Band of Brothers, has the world's largest collection of Easy Company artifacts. So that dovetails quite nicely with all the other things that are going on. Erik, outside of the Gettysburg Museum of History, what are you liking in Gettysburg that you would recommend to people?
Well, I'm a big fan of Ron Palm's Museum of Civil War Photography.
I was hoping you would say
that's one of the greatest museums that, and he doesn't do any promotion or any of that kind of. I mean, he has a Facebook page, I think, but it's one of those places a lot of people don't know about it, and he's my neighbor. He's literally 2 or 3 doors down from the Gettysburg Museum of History. And I just love that place. And Ron Palm is such a nice guy, and he's so generous with his knowledge and his archive. And, I can't tell you how many times people have, said, hey, my so-and-so was great great uncle was on the Pennsylvania Monument. How can I research him? And I sent him down to Ron Palm's museum, and he has a photograph of him, that they didn't know about, and he makes a copy for him. It's happened several times. It's amazing. He has I believe the largest collection in the world of Pennsylvania regiment photographs, and he has it laid out by regiment. And he also has a lot of amazing relics in there too. So that's one I always recommend, because a lot of people don't know about it, unfortunately.
Yeah, and to answer this question here, I believe his museum is just donation, right?
I think so. Yeah. He's changed it a few times, but I think maybe now it's donation. He was charging for a while, and then he started using the Gettysburg Museum of History model of donation, and I believe it's still at donation. But even if it's $5 or whatever it is to get in, go. It's worth it. 100%. It's a great place. So
really good.
That's my number one recommendation.
Okay. Jared, got a question here for you. Have you been to Abilene? Museum has a section on Gettysburg now. And then also, Erik, do you know if Spielberg and Hanks are aware of your work in museum? What's an event that should have a movie? All right. So Jared, let's tackle your part first. Have you been to the museum in Abilene?
Unfortunately, I have not yet, but I have given presentations on Zoom for the Eisenhower Presidential Library, but I've yet to be there in person. I don't find myself out in Kansas too often, unfortunately, but it is on my bucket list, and I have to give a more formal presentation in person there sometime.
All right, cool. And Erik, do Spielberg and Hanks know about our museum?
Well, they should, but I know. I briefly met Tom Hanks last June at the anniversary. I saw him walking across the stage, and I was on the stage with the vets after the event in Normandy on June 6th. So I went over to him and I said, Mr. Hanks, I just want to shake your hand and thank you for Band of Brothers, because it inspired me to write 2 books and study it further. And I wanted to tell him about the museum, but he was on his way to do his CNN interview. So he didn't really stop. It was kind of like an in motion kind of thing. But he said, "Oh, really?" He shook my hand. He goes, "That's cool." And then he took off. So I don't know if they really know. I know I've sent, I think Jared sent a book to Tom Hanks, I believe.
Yeah, I sent a copy of Fierce Valor to him because he has a cameo in it. Tom Hanks comes up several times in the text. And I got the address off of a good authority, and it didn't come back to me, but I never heard back.
Yeah. Well, Tom Hanks, we were hoping he was going to be at the film festival this year. But I guess he's not coming. I heard. Last word is he's not
just found out like in the last week that they wouldn't be able to come. Yeah, it was like a maybe until about a week ago.
But the best answer is if they don't know about the museum and the Easy Company collection, they should know. So anybody who knows them, make sure you tell them, please.
So JD, to answer the last part of that question, what event should have a movie? Not a movie, but a Band of Brothers style miniseries we need about the Iron Brigade.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. That would be wonderful.
Yes.
100% agree. 100% agree with that. So, Chris, what are you liking in Gettysburg?
Well, I'm excited. My son Eli, who's going to be 13 this summer, comes with me every year to the film festival. He loves it because he gets treated like a VIP. He gets a VIP pass and gets to sit right down front for everything. And he's never been to the top of Little Round Top because every time we've been there, it's been closed.
Oh, wow.
I'm really excited about taking him up there and just showing him the view and all of that. But I want to get back to Culp's Hill because I think Culp's Hill is a really underrated part of the battle. It's the only place on the battlefield that saw significant action all 3 days of the battle.
Yeah.
And I don't think enough people talk about that.
All right, Jared.
Being a former park ranger, I gotta give my brothers and sisters in green and gray a little bit of love, and you really have to. It goes under the radar, but you have to really go visit the Eisenhower farm. It's a very special place, and there are very few places like it where the history of the Civil War, World War I, World War II, the Cold War, and the presidency merged together in such compelling fashion. So that is a place that you really have to visit in Gettysburg if you haven't already. It's easy to overlook if you don't know it's there, but it's an absolute must, especially in theme with the festival this year.
You know what? This is absolutely shameful, but as many times as I've been to Gettysburg now, I've not been to the Eisenhower farm.
Guilty as charged.
Wow.
Case in point made. Yeah.
Yeah.
Can I tell a little story about the Eisenhower farm?
Yeah.
They have the Eisenhower farm is like a time capsule. They have it preserved the way it was kind of like when Mamie, I guess, around the time she passed away, they kind of just left it for many years. And it was only maybe 10 years ago, excuse me, they archived everything that was in the drawers. I mean, there was literally the stuff was left in the drawers. And many years ago, I was in there and a park ranger friend let me go through the drawers. And I literally was pulling out the drawers in the kitchen and pulling out Ike's ice cream scoop and stuff like that. It was freaking amazing. I mean, it was one of the coolest things I ever did. In the library, I was looking at the books. I mean, I had full on access to everything. And, but now they took everything out of the drawers and they put it into archival boxes, which is what they needed to do.
Yeah.
But it was still kind of neat going through Ike's drawers in the kitchen and stuff like that and seeing all the cool stuff that was in there.
To add on to that, several of the park rangers who became my bosses often got their start working at the Eisenhower farm. And it opened less than a year after Mamie Eisenhower passed away.
Oh, wow.
And he told me, this one park ranger told me, it's truly like they just got up and left. I mean, there was still salt and pepper and spices in the kitchen cabinets, and
oh my gosh.
Just all these personal knickknacks and belongings that had been left behind. So that's another thing that adds to its specialness, is that it's just so thoroughly preserved because Ike and Mamie deeded the property to the National Park Service before they passed away.
So, Jared, there's a question here. Is there a particular item that you remember that kind of stood out to you?
Oh, there's so many things. So the question is there something at the Eisenhower farm that people wouldn't believe is there? Well, many of Eisenhower's paintings that he personally did are in the collections of the Eisenhower farm. So the nice thing is some of these items are on display at an annex exhibit area in the main park visitors center where you start touring the battlefield. And I'd say the most incredible Eisenhower artifact that they have is his cigarette lighter that he carried throughout the war.
Oh, wow.
His thumbprint rubbed off the surface of that cigarette lighter because he smoked like a chimney during the war. And at the build up to D-Day, he was smoking 4 or 5 packs of cigarettes. And so it's such a fascinating, tangible item that underscores the burden of command and the pressures placed on him. It's just how worn down this cigarette lighter is that he was carrying throughout the war. So for as small as it is, that is one incredible artifact.
That's cool. That's cool. Well, I would add to all of those things a couple. And again, there's so many things in Gettysburg to go see. To get like a multi-dimensional look at the battle, which doesn't take place outside of town, but also takes place inside of town. I would highly recommend the Beyond the Battle Museum out by Barlow's Knoll at the Adams County Historical Society. That's an incredible museum. And then another thing I was going to say is if you have a couple of hours that you've set aside, over the 3 or 4 days, or maybe you stay over on Sunday or something like that, I would also recommend reaching out and hiring a licensed battlefield guide and getting out on the battlefield. Yeah. That was transformational for me, like getting out on the ground with some of these just highly knowledgeable people. It'll give you a completely different understanding of the battle. But again, there are so many great things there in Gettysburg.
Check out the website Destination Gettysburg. Whenever people reach out to me asking what there is to do, that's the local tourism bureau website, and they have the full listing of everything imaginable there, and people can decipher for themselves what is of their taste and interest from that point.
Awesome. And then, yes, somebody also mentioned the Shriver House, the Shriver Museum.
Didn't
which
the
again is,
Adams County Historical Society just take over running
yes,
Yeah.
yes, they
Yeah.
just purchased it, and that's just, I mean, you go Gettysburg Museum of History, Ron Palm's Civil War images, and then the Shriver House is just right down the road, right there on Baltimore Street. So you can hit three great things right there together. All right. So hey, we've been rolling for about an hour here. I hope that people will seriously consider coming out and joining us, because it is going to be a good time. You're going to be able to. We haven't even mentioned the historians who are going to be at the film festival. In addition to the actors and musicians and all that stuff. So it's going to be a really unique thing. Again, the website to get all of your information about the film festival is gettysburgfilmfestival.org. That's going to have all of the different events, all the different times. And then, of course, that's where you can purchase your tickets.
And we should point out too that like the screenings, a lot of those are free, but you still need to get a ticket because there's limited seating. So make sure you get a ticket, even though they're free.
Yes. And all four of us are going to be there hanging out. So it'll be good to get out and see people and put some names with faces. I've been accused of being a bit of a hermit before. So this is going to be one of the rare opportunities where I get out in the daylight and actually get to see people and have some fun and maybe relax a little bit. But anyway, thank you guys for carving out a little bit of time to come and talk history and movies and film festivals and stuff like that.
Yes, sir. We'll see you all in Gettysburg.
Our pleasure.
All right. So again, the website is gettysburgfilmfestival.org. Hope that you all will join us there, because again, it's going to be a good time. Going to be a very unique opportunity. So we'll see you there.